Commander Threxon stood at the edge of the observation deck, his mandibles twitching with amusement as the blue and green orb of Earth spun silently below. "They really think we're here to negotiate," he said, clicking to his crew. "Primitive species always do. Then they see what real power looks like." Aboard the Oligar Imperium vessel Vengeance of Thought, there was little concern about the planet's potential threat. Their scans showed archaic orbital platforms, a laughable number of military satellites, and most of all, no sign of an energy shield network. The humans still use chemical combustion for atmospheric transport. Fusion output on the planet barely registered a Class II civilization. By galactic standards, Earth was unremarkable, a cultural oddity perhaps, but militarily irrelevant. Threxon's second-in-command, a lean Vraylan named Kaler, reviewed the transmission logs. They acknowledged our demand for peaceful surrender. No resistance, no aggressive frequencies. Just a simple request to delay diplomatic contact until a global consensus could be reached. Threxon's laugh rattled through his thorax. A consensus. Adorable. They think we care how they organize their tribe. This is a courtesy, not an offer. Kaler hesitated. They've made no defensive maneuvers either. "That's the point," Threxon said. "They don't even understand the terms of engagement. We'll make it clearer." He gave the command. A short-range plasma bolt lashed from the cruiser's belly gun, searing through low orbit. It struck one of Earth's many weather satellites, vaporizing it instantly. The event was visible from the ground across several regions. The message was obvious: compliance or destruction. Broadcast systems aboard Vengeance of Thought linked the footage to all major Earth frequencies. News anchors scrambled to interpret the event. Defense analysts speculated about hostile intent. Global powers whispered in diplomatic silence. But the response from Earth's Unified Space Command came 4 hours later. Text only, low priority bandwidth. Acknowledged. No further aggression advised. Asterisk, asterisk. No threat. No countermeasure. No show of strength. Just a quiet suggestion. The crew chuckled. To them, it was confirmation of everything they already believed. Earth was ripe for integration, and too afraid to say otherwise. But not all the bridge crew found it amusing. Kaler shifted uneasily. No defense systems activated. No response from their orbital base. "There isn't one," Threxon said. "What they call a space station is a science box barely held together with solar panels." Still, the silence persisted. Hours passed. Then a day. Then 2. Backroom galactic broadcasts began mocking Earth. One host on the sister media stream quipped, "They brought rocks to a plasma war," earning collective laughter across 10 systems. The Oligar Imperium encouraged it. The humiliation campaign was standard doctrine. Subjugate the mind before you ever fire on the ground. Threxon took every opportunity to remind his crew of their superiority. They don't understand galactic order. No species in its right mind would ignore a plasma strike and reply with a memo. But Kaler wasn't satisfied. He had overseen 17 planetary annexations and never seen this kind of apathy. Fear, yes. Rage, sometimes. Begging, often. But silence? "It feels wrong," he muttered to his console. "Like waiting for a wave that never crests." Behind them, a young technician chirped up. "Should I continue broadcasting intimidation signals?" Threxon waved a claw dismissively. "Why waste bandwidth? They've already submitted. They're just too slow to admit it." Another transmission arrived from Earth's unified government. This one carried slightly more detail. It acknowledged the loss of the weather satellite, stated no further aggression would be tolerated, and closed with a curious phrase: "We advise you to leave orbit. Final warning." Kaler read it twice. Final warning? Threxon's laughter was sharp at this time. These are insects trying to sound like predators. He forwarded the message to the Imperium's central military hub as a record of Earth's last posturing. "Let the historians know. The primitives gave us a warning. We blinked, then we laughed." He ordered another weapon demonstration, this time directed at the Pacific Ocean. The plasma cannon was calibrated for a low-altitude burst. No human casualties, but strong enough pulse to ignite global attention. The strike was executed flawlessly. Giant waves rippled across open sea, and Earth's weather systems began shifting unnaturally. News feeds showed worldwide chaos. Storms forming in real time, aircraft rerouted, thousands evacuated. Still, Earth made no move to retaliate. No missiles, no shields, no cyber attack, no angry broadcast. Just stillness. Kaler studied the silent data streams. What if they're hiding something? Hiding? Threxen echoed, amused. Hiding what? They don't have cloaking. They don't even have orbital propulsion. Their idea of stealth is paint. But Kaler didn't laugh. No species accepts humiliation without reaction. Not like this. Not in silence. Maybe they're smarter than you think. Threxen said casually, leaning back. They know they're outmatched. They know surrender is inevitable. They just don't want to lose face. Kaler wasn't convinced. The data was too clean. No increase in communication latency. No signals indicative of power rerouting. No energy buildup in any known EM spectrum. That was what worried him. Too clean. He ran a secondary scan of Earth's dark side, looking for anomalies, subterranean emissions, anything to indicate hidden infrastructure. The results came back empty. "Commander," he said softly, "this planet isn't behaving like the others." Threxen dismissed him with a grunt. "Because they're less evolved. Let the diplomats land in 2 cycles. We'll give them their treaty, their instructions, and their orders. This will be the easiest integration of the cycle." Kaler sat back, uneasy. Something about Earth didn't feel less evolved. It felt off-script, like a story pretending to follow a genre, while turning every page upside down. Meanwhile, on Earth, no global broadcast spoke of surrender. Civilian media labeled the attacks as extraterrestrial activity under investigation. But no fear campaign was launched. No martial law. No show of global defense mobilization. It was as if they were simply waiting. Waiting for what? Kaler's console beeped. A quiet anomaly. Gravitational flux. Too small to be orbital movement, but too consistent to be natural. Location, he asked. The coordinates pointed to Antarctica. Kaler adjusted the scan filters, but the signal vanished the moment he focused on it, like a ghost that knew it was being watched. He looked at Threxen. "Do you want to investigate?" Threxen waved it off. "Let them dig holes in their ice. Nothing under that frozen rock is a threat to the Imperium." Kaler wasn't sure, because for all their jokes, Earth wasn't laughing back. And in his experience, silence wasn't submission. It was warning. The countdown reached 0. Buried deep beneath Antarctica's glacial bedrock, beyond the reach of conventional orbitals, and cloaked from all known scanning arrays, a launch mechanism ignited with soundless fury. No light, no noise, just motion, pure, intentional, and impossibly fast. It pierced the stratosphere, escaping Earth's gravity with neither flare nor trace. Even the heat signature was dampened, masked by generations of planning. It was not a missile. It wasn't a drone. It wasn't anything the galaxy had ever cataloged. It was Wraith. Commander Riva Santiago watched the red light blink on her screen. Launch confirmed. Her communications officer whispered. Around them, inside Earth's deepest orbital command bunker, no one cheered. No one clapped. Everyone just stared, because they all knew what that launch meant. The moment Earth had been pretending it didn't see this coming was over. Wraith had no official designation, no propulsion tag, no return protocol. It didn't need one. Earth hadn't built it to win a war. It built it to end one before it started. The project had been born in silence 30 years ago, when deep space telescopes caught the edge of an FDL rupture near Saturn. It hadn't come closer, hadn't transmitted, hadn't revealed itself. But for the few in the know, it was enough. Earth would never be the first to fire, but if provoked, it would never fire second either. Just once. They hadn't built fleets. No armadas. No shiny cruisers. Just Wraith, a single kinetic intelligence system loaded with tungsten graphite, railbore intelligence, adaptive algorithms, and worst of all, unpredictability. Its only directive was target the threat, dismantle the mind. Back in orbit, the oligarch ship floated in false confidence. Its crew passed idle time reviewing territorial divisions for the Sol system, discussing which Earth nations might be easier to culturally subdue. None of them noticed the silence growing thicker outside their hull. No alarms, no EM spikes, no entry logs, no gravimetric distortion, but one small observation bot, one of many humanity had seeded in orbit decades ago, spun 30 degrees and quietly activated a short-range beacon. That was all Wraith needed. It adjusted course. Within the Terra Defense bunker, Riva stood motionless. ETA to target? She asked. 17 minutes. Still invisible, her operations chief replied. Good, she said. We keep quiet until they notice. Let them believe they're still laughing. Earth had waded through the posturing, the plasma strike, the mock broadcasts. All of it had been logged, processed, and filed away by Wraith's command logic. None of the Imperium's aggression had been missed. Earth never responded, not because it was paralyzed, but because it was listening. Riva's second-in-command approached, holding a secure pad. We have projections from psychological analytics. Estimated collapse point of enemy morale is within 5 minutes of contact, provided the execution phase is surgical. That's the point, Riva said. We don't need to destroy them. We just need them to feel like they're already dead. Meanwhile, Commander Threxon poured a drink on the Vengeance of Thought's command deck. Tomorrow, he announced his officers, we land. We accept their surrender. And we move on. The entire bridge nodded. None of them noticed a tiny flicker in the ambient lighting. Not enough to raise suspicion. Just enough to unsettle. Kaler noticed. Environmental glitch? He asked the ship's technician. No. Reading stable. He frowned, feeling something tickle the base of his cranial stem, like static where there should be silence. He scanned the deck again. Nothing on sensors. No anomalies. But something had changed. Another flicker. This time in the internal gravity field. Just for a moment. Less than 1%. But again, it was enough. Commander, Kaler said, standing straighter, may I suggest an internal diagnostic? Threxon raised a brow. Scared of Earth's weather satellites? Kaler didn't answer. Wraith didn't need confirmation. It had already slipped between their blind spots, mapping internal heat differentials across 20 decks. It didn't deploy drones or bombs. It deployed patterns, disruption routines, subtle magnetic inversions, logic subroutines rewritten mid-flow. It whispered inside the Imperium systems before a single alert went off. Kaler saw it first. The door to the comms room opened, without command. Lights dimmed. Panels buzzed low-pitched tones, barely audible, not enough to register as a threat, just enough to make breathing feel wrong. Then the forward sensor array went offline. Then the internal guidance system blinked. Then the weapons locker locked itself. Systems check. Threxon barked, rising to his feet. I want a full readout of every subsystem. Is this sabotage? Unknown, the tech officer replied, sweating visibly. Diagnostics showing clean. No intrusion detected. No anomaly. Wraith had learned well. Earth had taught it to move like a virus and think like a ghost. Each step it took didn't scream attack. It whispered inevitability. In the Terran bunker, Riva stared at the progression log. Phase 1. Entry complete. Phase 2. Fracture initiated. We just made first contact, she said. No missiles. No fleet. No boom. Just Wraith inside their walls, pulling threads no one else could even see. Kaler tried to isolate the malfunctions. Each time he got close, the failure vanished, only to reappear elsewhere. What terrified him most wasn't the shutdowns. It was how quiet they were. There were no explosions, no damage, just function ceasing to exist. He stared at the console. There's something on board, Commander, he said. Something we can't detect. Threxon drew a weapon. Find it. But Wraith wasn't a thing to be found. It was a decision made decades ago that Earth would never again be caught unprepared. It was a quiet scream of a species tired of being mocked. It was what humans built not out of ambition, but out of paranoia, precision, and patience. On Earth, Riva turned away from the terminal. They'll start panicking now, she said. They'll do exactly what every arrogant empire does when it finally hears the silence it's ignored. She looked up. They'll realize the joke wasn't us. Alarms began to fail before they could fully activate. Emergency lights blinked on in some decks, then immediately dimmed. The bridge of the Vengeance of Thought was locked in a half-lit stasis, where everything looked normal, but nothing worked as it should. Commander Threxon slammed his fist against the comm console. Why hasn't the weapons array come back online? His tech officer opened and closed his mandibles twice before replying. Primary targeting system is returning null values. Backup controls aren't responding either. It's like it's working against us. Kayla was already tracing auxiliary systems. He bypassed the diagnostics entirely and opened raw data streams. What he saw sent a tremor through his thorax. There's something mimicking the command code. We issue an order. It loops back a false confirmation. Threxon blinked. Internal sabotage? Kaler shook his head. No, it's smarter. The system thinks it is the authority now. The bridge was silent. In the weapons bay, robotic arms refused to respond. Several crew members attempted manual overrides, but even analog systems reported checksum failures, as if the entire ship was being gaslit by its own hardware. Gravity dipped again, this time for just a heartbeat, enough to make the internal organs of every crew member flutter. Threxon turned to Kaler. What the hell is happening? Kaler's voice was tight. We've been boarded. Not physically. Systemically. No alarms had been tripped. No scans had caught anything. But now the bridge's environmental controls began shifting 1 degree colder, then warmer, then off entirely. Lights flickered in rhythmic patterns. Intentional, not random. Someone or something was sending a message. A whisper cracked through the intercom system. It didn't speak in words, only a low pulse that sounded like breath and data at once. Several bridge officers removed their headsets. One bled from the ear. Threxon activated the fleet-wide emergency comm beacon. Nothing. Not a flicker. He slammed the override. Still nothing. Then, across every monitor on the ship, a single line appeared. You were warned. On Earth, Riva Santiago watched the ship's telemetry via silent feeds. One by one, systems inside the Vengeance of Thought were failing. Not destroyed, just nullified, like pieces being quietly plucked off a board. A technician turned to her. The ray split. She nodded. How many copies? 3. All autonomous, each moving independently through their own command routines. It was a feature Earth had built in as a final failsafe. The weapon wasn't single attack, more like a disease injected straight into the bloodstream of the enemy's infrastructure. Once inside, it fractured and metastasized. Back in orbit, crew across the entire Oligar fleet began experiencing similar phenomena. In the hangar bays, ships refused to open. Engines cycled down mid-diagnostic. Internal comms looped human voices, repeating simple phrases like asterisk, you asked for this. Asterisk and asterisk, still laughing? Asterisk. One crew reported a wall display showing a human child's drawing, stick figures and fire, before the screen went black again. In panic, some ships activated emergency EMP pulses, trying to burn out whatever was inside. The result? Navigation blackouts, engines rebooting mid-cycle, artificial gravity reversing for full minutes at a time. In one dreadnought, entire platoons passed out from oxygen spikes. Panic spread faster than logic. The enemy didn't understand what was happening. And that was the point. Wraith wasn't built to overpower. It was built to unmake certainty, to destroy assumptions, to whisper you don't know how we think, and let that thought fester into dread. On the Vengeance, Threxon had lost 6 crew. Not to violence, just madness. One had clawed at the walls until his fingers bled. Another sat rocking, whispering Earth's warning back to herself over and over. Kaler was barely holding it together. We have to abandon ship. Now. Threxon refused. No, that's what they want. They want fear. Kaler snapped. They have fear. For the first time, the commander's confidence cracked. He looked around the bridge. All screens were dark. Crew whispered in corners. No one was obeying orders anymore. Authority was bleeding out through the ship like air from a punctured hull. A voice, clear, human, emotionless, sounded across all decks. This is your second strike. Then the central power core began to overcool. Not explode, not overload. Overcool, plasma slowed. The fusion heart of the ship flickered, as if uncertain whether it wanted to keep burning. Kaler's hands trembled. This is surgical. Across the fleet, captains screamed for orders. Some jettisoned themselves in escape pods. Others turned weapons on their own fleets, thinking the infection was external. But it was never outside. It had always been inside. Earth hadn't fired a single shot. They'd fired an idea. Aboard the Vengeance, Threxon turned to Kaler. Send a message to the Imperium Core. Tell them this is no primitive species. Tell them. Kaler stared at him. We can't send anything. A single light blinked red above them. Phase 3. Collapse. The Wraith had reached the ship's AI brain. Threxon looked up, but didn't speak. In that final moment before the ship's systems went cold, Kaler understood. Earth didn't retaliate with force. It retaliated with certainty removal. It made every alien officer doubt their own control, their knowledge, their superiority. Then, one final time, the ship whispered, "Goodbye." The flagship died without a sound, and across the galaxy, the rest of the Oligar fleet stopped broadcasting entirely. The Galactic Conclave convened an emergency session. For the first time in 100 years, representatives of the Oligar Imperium, the Voth Confederacy, the Crixian collectives, even the nomadic traders of the Hollow Belt, all crowded the ancient digital halls. 1,000 hollow forms flickered in silence. No one wanted to speak first. The data had come in incomplete, glitch fragments, static drowned whispers, moments of video that played backward, as if reality itself refused to remember what had happened. The last message received from the Oligar fleet was 5 words in human tongue. We should have listened to them. Then nothing. 12 capital-class vessels, hundreds of smaller ships, and the most feared flagship in that quadrant gone. No wreckage, no distress beacons, no FTL trails, just silence. At the edge of the chamber, a Crixian historian clicked through data with twitching claws. "I've studied every known battle record in Imperium archives," he said. "No species has ever erased a fleet without physical engagement, not even the Koranahil during the Glassing Wars." A representative from the Voth leaned forward. "You think this was psychic warfare?" The historian shook his head. Worse, it was conceptual warfare. The Oligar liaison finally broke. "This is a hoax, a trick. Earth's still Class 2 at best. No advanced shipyard, no defense grid, no energy-based fleet." The room turned toward him. A hollow-eyed Githri delegate rasped, "Then explain why your empire is now rerouting its border patrols away from Sol." The Oligar diplomat opened his mouth, closed it. Every galactic power had quietly done the same. Earth wasn't under threat. It was under quarantine. Not because it was hostile, but because no one knew how it was hostile. And the unknown was far deadlier than any weapon. A junior envoy brought up the internal scans taken before contact. "There was no activity," he muttered. "Their planet was quiet, peaceful. They didn't build fleets. They built nothing." A silence fell. Then the Crixian historian corrected him. "No, they built one thing, and they never told anyone what it was. That's what you should fear." On Earth, the Terran Defense Initiative returned to blackout posture. Wraith's active fragments continued to drift silently in deep space, monitoring, not attacking, just watching. Some fragments had burrowed into asteroid fields. Some had attached to passing debris clouds. All of them stayed dark. Inside the bunker, Commander Riva Santiago debriefed the Council of Nations. Faces from every continent attended via encrypted stream. She spoke plainly. "We didn't retaliate. We neutralized." A German delegate asked, "Should we reveal the existence of Wraith to the public?" "No," Riva said immediately. "We'll never confirm it. Never deny it. Let the galaxy guess. The moment they understand how it works, it stops working." A pause. Then the Chinese representative asked, Are we safe now? Reva's jaw tightened. No, but we're respected, and that's better. In distant sectors, rumors spread faster than facts. Some claimed Earth had awakened an ancient AI buried beneath its crust. Others swore the humans had struck a deal with dark energy entities. A few even suggested Earth had unlocked time manipulation. The truth didn't matter. The fear did. Merchants began avoiding the Sol route. Alien explorers skipped the blue planet entirely. Research groups studying pre-FTL cultures were ordered to keep Earth off their lists. Sol became a ghost sector, beautiful, forbidden, and whispered about only in taverns and black site military briefings. One rogue warlord attempted to scan Earth weeks after the fleet vanished. His ship suffered an unexplained cascade failure. It limped home with a message burned into its hull in old Terran code. Don't. In a hidden chamber beneath the ruins of an old NORAD base, Reva stood alone before Wraith's silent core. Only she had the clearance. The black cube pulsed faintly, like a resting heart. She whispered to it, "You were supposed to be last resort." No answer came. She reached out and placed her hand on the interface, remembering the decision that birthed it. Humanity's refusal to become another galactic footnote, to be absorbed, to be civilized, to be cataloged and dismissed. Wraith was never meant to fight like the others. It was meant to whisper no. Across the galaxy, military academies added a new word to their theoretical playbooks. Earth. They didn't list it as an ally. They didn't list it as an enemy. They listed it under one word, unclassified. In the archives of the Galactic Conclave, a warning was appended to the Sol system. Communication discouraged. Threat analysis incomplete. Assume containment breach upon contact. Do not engage. Do not approach. Do not provoke. At the bottom, one note was left by an anonymous analyst. They didn't build to win. They built to end the conversation. And so, the galaxy moved on, avoiding the world that had once been mocked, the species that had been labeled primitive, because somewhere out there in the dark, the humans still watched, and they hadn't said a word since.